is with us here on set. What are you starting with today then?
Well, should we have a look at Hollande's social summit then, which has dominated the last couple of days of news in France? A shock for spending power is how L'Humanité is headlining. Of course, this was the consensual social summit, which everyone was meant to be happy with. Hollande was going to get everyone together and, unlike Sarkozy, and get them all to agree with one another. It's not quite worked out. The unions are furious then that this national insurance rise that's going to be used to fill in the multi-billion-dollar deficit in France's social security system. The bosses, for their part, are furious at the government's plan to allow workers to take a role, or indeed force companies to have workers sitting on remuneration committees deciding how much their bosses are paid.
And we've certainly heard an awful lot about irresponsible capitalists recently, haven't we? I mean, the Barclays-Libor scandal might go on to kind of extend to French banks.
Yes, well, Libor has got into the Monde today with the headline, "Manipulating Libor would need banks to collude." Now, they say that at least, they reckon, around 20 big international banks must have been colluding about the manipulation of Libor. They talked to researchers who have studied the questions of transparency in the markets, and they say, really, Barclays was just the first bank to be caught. It certainly wasn't the most guilty bank. Of course, its two main bosses have had to step down in the last couple of weeks over what's become a huge scandal in Britain. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Some French banks, they say, must have been involved. Société Générale admits now that they're being asked by international financial authorities to answer some questions. And they explain that Libor is set essentially by taking an average of the interest rates being paid by at least 20 big international banks. That means to manipulate it in any significant way, at least a quarter of them would have had to have been colluding.
It'll be interesting if any of that does come out. Now, Francois Hollande, you mentioned him a minute ago, he was in the UK yesterday, wasn't he? Talk of the city at all?
Well, it was called by some of the English newspapers a discordial meeting. They've gone for mise-entente cordiale over here at Le Parisien, a sort of cordial misunderstanding that might be perhaps interpreted as. So, of course, Hollande and Cameron's relationship has not got off to the best possible start. They've had clashes about the city, about what Europe should do about trying to control the City of London, and of course, most famously, about tax rates for the rich, after Cameron said he would roll out the red carpet for any French people wanting to run away from Hollande's famous 75% tax on millionaires. Hollande sort of fired a response salvo to that at a press conference yesterday, saying that for a long time under Sarkozy, France had a more favourable tax arrangement for millionaires than Britain, and we haven't noticed that France is full of British millionaires. So obviously some parts of Provence he's not been to recently. But he did also get to meet the Queen, which Le Parisien is very excited about. It says they reckon it shows how important France still is on the world stage, and they do compliment Her Majesty's apparently wonderful French also.
I gather she did speak French. Cameron apparently known as red carpet now amongst some French people in the government, shall we say. Le Parisien, they're looking at far more important matters though.
Yes, obviously all of that, really, that we've just mentioned, to the French in the middle of July is completely incidental. It is holiday time, time to leave Paris, go and lie on a beach. Paris should be emptying out by this point. But that was a French beach yesterday. Grey skies and people in hooded sweatshirts.
Surprises anyone on it at all? Actually.
Well, no, actually, some of those people are in the water, bad weather or not bad weather. But when is the sun going to come out? This is quite serious for the French economy. One of the biggest tourist destinations in the world. Hoteliers and ice cream sellers and swimming suit manufacturers all over France losing lots of money. The forecast is terrible unless you're in Nice or on the Riviera coast. The sun is not going to come out before the end of July at the earliest, according to Le Parisien's depressing meteorological predictions.
Okay.
So yes, and
have to cope with no more sun.
No more sun. And in the international press review in a couple of hours, I'm going to tell you how the Olympics organisers are trying to cope with the even worse weather in London.
Excellent stuff. All right, Elena, we'll be back talking about that then a little bit later on here on France 24. Coming up next, it's going to be time for Focus. Today we have an